Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grip Lock, Foundation Disc Golf's weekly podcast. I'm Hunter, joined as always by Trevor. No Connor today, and boy, do we have an episode. We got a lot of news to go through, a lot of offseason movement. We'll have a fun Trevor's Trivia, and then if we get to it, I have a really fun game presented by Edwin Stats. But I don't know if we're going to get to it or not because we have a lot to go through, like I was saying. But first, let's chop into some people who support us so you can support them. I don't know about you, but every once in a while there comes a point in your life where you might hit a wall. You can be trying to juggle work, life, everything in between, and your focus can start to slip. You start not sleeping well, and you just try to get through each day. Does that sound familiar? Well, there's this thing called mental wellness, mental wealth. It's the idea of building long-term resilience, much like saving for your future. And we all know the importance of financial savings, but have you ever thought about the investing in your mental resilience? Mental wealth means setting up habits now, like prioritizing sleep, exercise, diet, managing stress, and even using natural supplements that will support you when life gets tough, because it will. This is where Magic Mind comes in. It's not a quick fix, but it's a tool that's part of your daily strategy to stay sharp and focus. So Magic Mind's focus shots can be used in the morning, and they can really just be a game changer for clarity, mental energy. There's no more like mid-morning slumps or jittery crashes. And at night, you can use Magic Mind Sleep to help you fall asleep, unwind, fall asleep faster, and get the deep rest you need to recover for the next day. And Magic Mind has bundled their focus and their sleep shots together for the first time. So if you're looking to build your own mental wealth in 2025, now is the perfect time to try them. They're offering 45% off of this exclusive bundle through my link in the show notes below. So take a moment today. Think about your own mental health journey. There's no better time than now to start building your mental resilience for the challenges ahead. And with Magic Mind, you're not just improving your focus during the day, but you're investing in the ability to recharge and sleep well at night. So let's make 2025 the year we prioritize our mental wealth together. And click the link in the description below or head over to magicmind.com/griplockedjan. That's griplockedjan to get 45% off the Magic Mind bundle. Invest in your mental wealth now with Magic Mind. All right, we got some wild sponsor news, so let's go through least interesting to most interesting as we typically do. I think this sheet's fully updated as of now. First off, Evan Smith has announced Dynamic Discs is going to be his sponsor for 2025. I think the only thing that people might be surprised by is Dynamic, after what we're about to talk about in a second, they're still picking players up. So we've seen Evan Smith, we've seen earlier in the year Parker Welk, and we still are waiting for a few players. Robert Burridge, we thought were going to Dynamic, but from what I understand, he got sponsored by a retailer, and it might just be open bag season for him, and he's just choosing to throw a lot of Trilogy.
I think we would have heard at this point, we would have heard, sure.
Well, maybe, because we still haven't heard from Joel Freeman, Haley King, and Randon Lotta, it seems, are the ones we're waiting on, and obviously Ricky, we're about to talk about. And then the other player who announced was Heidi Line, went to Westside from Clash Discs. So Clash Discs lost Evan Smith and Heidi, and they picked up, now they have Dynamic and Westside for both of them.
It really does say something about those lesser Trilogy brands in the House of Discs world that, like, they obviously were clearing some house, but the situation must not be so desperate that they're cutting every possible cost. Like, they're still seeing some amount of value, whether it's just PR and just maybe those signings are just a reminder to the public that we're not going away just yet. Or maybe they do see other value in them, but in any case, like there was the decision to, like, hey, we still want people out there throwing our discs. And I do think, like, when you are a brand positioned like Westside or Dynamic Discs, and obviously Westside, they still have Matty O, who's probably is easily their most influential player. But, you know, if you're not really, at this point, you're not a niche brand anymore, right? Because when a brand is like first starting out and is more niche, I think that they can generate a little bit of hype just in the surrounding areas, like locally, and just kind of get around. There's like a little bit of mysteriousness to it, but like Dynamic Discs is far and away past that. So like if nobody's throwing their discs on tour, I think they just kind of cease to exist in people's mind a little bit. Like I do think you have to, at the end of the day, get your logo on decent players who have some visibility, and like Evan Smith's a good player, so I guess that's just kind of the reasoning there, is like they're just looking for some less expensive players that they can still keep their name out there.
It is a very fine balance as a manufacturer where, like you're saying, you almost have to have tour representation just from the standpoint of, like, it's validating to people in a certain extent, but there is a, like, point of diminishing return where there is a point where as we've seen with Ricky and Kona, as we're about to talk about, you can't be paying too much for what a player can bring in.
Yeah.
And so there's a point of like, we need our discs out on tour. So we need some level of player throwing them. But we have to find that line of how much is it actually influencing people. And I think the key is finding people who are well respected and looked up to in their local area. Because what someone like Evan Smith can do in Raleigh is people really like Evan locally. And so what that can do is when he does a signing at his local shop, when he does clinics, when he's playing local events during the off season, when he's just out at local weeklies, whatever, people are going to want to support him, and that can have a more regional effect to where you can almost get your ROI just like, hey, you know what? Raleigh was 10%, dynamic. Now it's 40% dynamic, and that is going to help us cover versus when you go for the big player, because when you go to the big names, they're not typically not nearly as involved in their local community to where you don't have that local impact the same. And so you're just banking on, I need them to impact the global sport.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a better ROI in these middle players, because Parker Welk might be the same in Arizona. I just know Evan Smith a little bit more.
Isn't Parker out of California?
I thought he's spending most of his offseason in Arizona.
We met him at Huntington, didn't we?
He was at Huntington Beach, yeah. But I feel like he's spending his offseason in Arizona. Maybe he just plays Fountain Hills. Huntington Beach was his like home course.
Yeah.
He was out there.
Yeah.
But I thought he was spending his offseason in Arizona. I could be wrong. Regardless, I don't know how involved he is because obviously he's on the opposite side of the country. But I'm just saying, when you sponsor a player where they're very heavily involved in their local scene, I think there is a play to be made there, and maybe that's what we're seeing with these players.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think, maybe disc golf, because like when a new disc golf company starts, obviously that's usually the first place you see it. I remember when Lone Star first existed, we were in Dallas. We saw local Texas guys throwing it in there. That's why. And I know that I think companies value their immediate areas as like, okay, if we're in, if we're Discraft and we're in Michigan, or if we're in Innova and we're in California, we want California people to be throwing Innova. And I think that just happens as a byproduct. But I wonder how much thought is put towards, like, if I were a company looking to establish some share of the marketplace, I would look to establishing regional dominance. And I think that it's easier than people might suspect, because if you can like really trap big disc golf epicenters, like Lynchburg at this point has become a pretty influential place in disc golf. There's a lot of disc golfers here. And if you are, as a company, maybe you are sponsoring all the local TDs in the area. So now every time you go to one of their tournaments, you're going to be picking up a new free disc. And for new disc golfers, that can be all it takes sometimes.
Yeah, very much so.
You can grab an entire customer and all their loyalty just by maybe them getting a free disc that they liked at a tournament. But you get that. Maybe you grab a couple local pros. Like, I would almost run it as a campaign. Like, and this may be beneath their scope, but I think it can be powerful. Like, let's say I'm Prodigy, right? And I'm trying to reestablish roots. I would maybe pick a big disc golf population, maybe not where we're closest in Georgia, but maybe we go to like, I don't know, Virginia, we'll just use an example again, and like make a campaign out of it. Like, okay, we're going to sponsor these couple TDs. We're going to get these local pros on our teams as well, and we're going to really pour into this area and see if there's any kind of spread effect, if our Virginia income from that, the orders from that area increase at all, like if there's any garnered support there. Because I do feel like, though I think everybody in disc golf is obsessed right now with the money in, money straight back, like the immediate ROI. I mean, that's the reason why manufacturers will only sign players who are moving discs, because it's really easy, right? You sold one disc, you get $3. It's not, we signed you, our name's on your shirt, how much money is that generating? That's harder to track. So I think that because money is so tight for disc golf companies, that's the way they're spending, and this would very much not be that way of spending. But at some point, because it's the same thing with the Disc Golf Network, we talk about the paywall. Like, if you were to go to free viewing, would that eventually turn into more income? And I think there's so many bills to pay, but I just think that there may be a lot of strategy like that that's kind of getting left out because of the urgency to get immediate money.
I think disc golf in general, that's been one of the like biggest harms to the sport, is neglecting the long-term growth for the short-term gain, where we aren't looking 5-10 years down the road and how are our decisions today affecting that, and instead it's how is my decision today affecting tomorrow,
right.
And that's it. And when you're doing that, you end up a little screwed. But Prodigy's a great example, because back in the day when they had Chris Dickerson, Zach Melton, Will Shoestrick, Tennessee was Prodigy country.
Yeah.
There was like everyone I met that played out of Tennessee through Prodigy.
Yeah.
Through and through.
Well,
that wasn't that long ago.
You know what's interesting about that too is we talk about, and it is kind of old fashioned to talk about the local effect within disc golf. But I will say one thing that has definitely weakened that in the last decade or so, and especially in the last few years that live disc golf has become so prevalent, is, we were in echo chambers back in the day. You really had your local scene, and then you could look to YouTube, but a lot of what you were seeing was what was happening around you, whereas now people kind of jump that rope of their local disc golf scene to get that fix and go to the online, and they're on Instagram, and they're seeing so much more than just what's happening around them. So it is a lot more competitive in that space, because you're right. Like, if I was in Tennessee and every big tournament I showed up to, there were 3 guys there that were always winning, and they were throwing the same thing, that's a no-brainer.
Well, you also had Tim Barr at the time. I don't know if he might have actually been with Latitude, but he was running most of the tournament. So maybe he was with Prodigy at some point, because when I was playing Tim Barr events, it was Latitude. But regardless, I just know several Tennessee guys came up here, and I met a bunch of people who were from ETSU and stuff like that, and like, they all had some form of Prodigy in their bag, and they were like salesmen. Like, they were proud of Prodigy. Like, I thought Prodigy was in Tennessee for the longest time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was in Georgia. Obviously, it was close to the Tennessee border, but I didn't realize it was in Georgia until I really started Foundation and started ordering discs. I didn't realize that was where, because Prodigy and Tennessee were tied in my head. And I think that there's still, like, I think Michigan is still pretty heavily discraft. MVP's taking a little bit of that, but there's still South Carolina. If you go down south, Georgia, stuff like that is still Innova country. There's still roots dug deep, but you're right in that before it was very much like who you saw at tournaments, and if you were buddies with your local pro and they got sponsored by X, Y, and Z company, you were going to start throwing it because you wanted to support them, and also someone you looked up to who was better than you was throwing that plastic. So I think as disc golf readjusts, that's definitely something that'll come back. But let's talk about what people are here for. Okay, Dynamic Discs had 2 big departures happen over the last week. The first one we'll talk about here is Kona, I almost said Kona Panis. Kona Montgomery has left Dynamic Discs. So this was the post that was made 3 years ago. Kona and Dynamic Discs embarked on an exciting journey during a time of significant growth in the sport. Over the years, we collaborated on engaging social media campaigns and innovative new products. After careful reflection and extensive discussions, we've mutually decided to part ways for the 2025 season. Kona, it has been a true pleasure working with you. We are deeply grateful for your passion and creative contributions to disc golf. Your future is undoubtedly bright, and we wish you all the best in your next endeavors. Since then, Kona has announced that she will be back, and is back. She's already played a tournament with Innova, so she came back home.
Yep.
Thoughts on that first?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I think that, people drag the Kona contract a lot, and at the end of the day, was it a great business decision? No, but at the end of the day, she also got that contract, so you can't fault her. I'm glad that she got that contract. That was great, and I'm also happy that she's been able to land back at Innova. Obviously, I know her dad is employed there. I'm sure that helped in the process, but I do think that somebody else would have picked her up regardless, because there still is a social media presence to be had there. Obviously, I don't think it'd be evaluated at the amount it was being evaluated at. But honestly, I think my kind of take in the whole Kona situation too is like, I feel like I felt her more as a social media like influence presence while she was with Innova. I don't know if it's just that I wasn't paying as much attention. Maybe the Dynamic brand kind of blended in for me, but I don't know. I just maybe early on I was feeling it, maybe just these last few years, and she was dealing with some health issues too, so you can't fault her for that. But I don't know. I hope that she has a fresh start. I would love if Kona Montgomery would be able to kind of find a game again, because people forget, part of the reason, a very big part of the reason she got that contract was she had just won a pro tour, and so it had been like this long, okay, she's kind of up and coming, and then she won and had a pretty good season. It was like, okay, this is a legitimate player who now also has the social media side. There's not that many FPO players that have won a full pro tour. It's a pretty short list. So that was a very valuable player in that sense. And then since then, things haven't worked out. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, yes, Kona, I bet she's going to be the comeback player of the year next year. But I could see it happening. I could see her just needing this reset back at a company that she's familiar with, and I hope it'll work out and be good for her.
Yeah, no, I think I think that Kona's health issues get overlooked a lot because it's a very much, you look at her contract and it's a very, she signed the deal, she didn't perform well on the course, her name became more irrelevant than it was before the signing of the deal, and everyone knew her contract number. And that was a big thing.
That first season after the contract was real bad.
Yes.
And it obviously everybody was staring at it. So
yeah,
help.
I think that was, there's also the pressure of she was playing knowing, everyone was knowing she signed a $125,000 a year contract.
I wonder how much things would be different if, I mean, there's always going to be internal pressure on yourself if you know how much you're making, but I wonder how much things would be different if nobody had known.
Yeah.
Like if, they didn't need to throw that number out there. I understand that was the trend, and they were proud to have been like, hey, we're paying Kona all this money, and that's cool. But I don't know. I'd be curious.
Yeah. Now, what I will say is over the last several years, I've still followed Kona on Instagram, obviously. She has over 100,000 followers. Just check the number. And regardless, she was also with Bushnell, who Bushnell's, I think, pulled out of disc golf at this point. But she was with Bushnell, Dynamic. Every one of her partnerships, every one of her sponsors, she pushes them like very few do in the sport.
Yeah.
I think the problem that we'll see if she can fix with Innova was what I think made it intriguing pre-Dynamic was she was the up-and-comer, and people were excited to see what she was about to do on the Pro Tour, and then she got the win, and there was a lot of momentum, and then that all kind of came to a screeching halt due to both internal and external factors. Some things she could control, some things she couldn't, but regardless, play was not there. And so I think that stopped the interest somewhat. She was still doing a great job as far as like she was doing everything she was asked to do. When it came to promotion, she was doing more than 99% of other pros on social media, and she was taking advantage of that tool. So I'm excited for that opportunity back with Innova, because I also think she still feels like an Innova player.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think a lot of her,
it's not hard to make that jump again.
A lot of her supporters, I don't think, really left with her. She was very involved with juniors and stuff, and I know a lot of those juniors are like really excited to have Kona back on the same team as them. So it'll be, I think, obviously this time we don't know what Innova paid her, but I think that it could be a very lucrative contract both ways for them. Yeah. With her being back there.
If you look at this 2021 season, this is the season that earned her the contract. Okay, this is 2021, so this is years ago. She made almost $30,000. She had a win, and she spent over half, like probably 3/4 of her season in the top 10. A good bit of it in the top 5.
Yeah,
it's really good. And then you go to 2022, first year under the contract, she made $8,000 and was had many finishes outside the top 30.
Yeah. Now, obviously there was health issues, but I'm also. What I always wondered was how much was it just the pressure shifted from we're all behind Kona. We're all very excited to see what she's able to do on tour. She's an up-and-comer. She has a great social media following. She's a great marketer. To she's getting paid $125,000 a year. She just signed a 4-year, $500,000 deal. Now the expectations shift from we're all excited to see what you can do, go do whatever you do, to now the expectation is you're getting paid the same as Kristen Tatar at the time. You better go out and play like that. Yeah. And now
sports don't give you a very long time, and especially once you've gotten the win. Like if you look at any other sport, I mean, for football, sometimes it's like if you have a good rookie year, the very next year you're expected to be great. CJ Stroud was a good example of that last year. And then in golf, like they'll give you a little bit of a leash, but the second you win and you've proven you can, it's kind of like you've arrived and everybody's now expecting that you are a winner. Like it's a very quick turnaround in sports, and you're right. You throw money to it, and now there's that label of like you're being paid at this, threshold that other players are not getting necessarily. So it's tough.
What backs that up in my head, because obviously I don't know if any of that's true, but what backs it up in my head is that what went wrong and what she's been trying to fix is putting. And we know that putting is pretty much all between the ears. Like, I mean, when you're within 20 feet, like if you just look at the basket and the size of the object we're trying to throw into it, it objectively is not a hard task, but you're in between your ears gets in the way. So that's what also kind of leans in for me of like, this is most likely outside factors definitely played a big role, because your confidence can get shot. You go out the first tournament, you have all this pressure, you don't perform the way you're supposed to. Maybe it's people at Dynamic, maybe it's just the online. Obviously she's a very a big personality on social media, so maybe it's the online comments, whatever. Next thing you know, you're 3 years in, you haven't had a season like you did pre-contract, and now Dynamic Disc is like, it's time we got to part ways. It was a mutual part due to Instagram comment, but I would assume this was more brought up from Dynamic.
I don't think she wanted to turn down another $125,000.
Yeah, it might have been a mutual after how I'm perceiving, because obviously Ricky you're about to read was also mutual.
Or it's going to be, we can say it's mutual and it looks better.
What I'm perceiving is basically I think that they were at a spot where they're like, we can't keep both these contracts and still be a business. So it's like, we can ride this out, but we won't exist and you won't get paid.
Yeah.
Or we can work with you and try to find a new contract. And it's like, well, let's just find a new contract because I still want to play next year.
Well, there has to be some, I mean, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, for Rick especially, there has to be some level of understanding and gratitude, because it's like, am I maybe losing out on a good bit of money here? But this company was willing to pay me $3 million so far, so there should be some level of gratitude
very much so
for that.
Now let's speak about Rick. So Ricky,
it happened.
Hasn't.
I don't remember what my final percentage was at.
You were I was more,
but it was.
I was at 35% chance it could happen.
I was way higher.
I think you were like
80-20. I might have been 85-15,
something like that.
I did not think this was going to happen. I'm not really sure why I was so confident. I think I was mostly saying that because the data we had didn't feel great, and it's so late for all this.
It is very late.
So late.
So this is the post from Dynamic. Ricky and Dynamic Disc have mutually agreed to part ways in 2025. The past 3 years with Ricky on Team Dynamic Disc have been truly remarkable. We are deeply grateful for his contributions to the brand and his unwavering dedication to disc golf. During his time with Dynamic, we celebrated over 20 victories, thrilling rounds, countless Raptor leg marathons, and exciting disc releases. While we will miss Ricky, we are excited to see what opportunities the future hold for him. Ricky, best of luck to you in your next chapter.
Here's what I can tell you, is we're going to know where Rick's headed probably about a couple hours after this episode releases. So.
I would imagine the news is dropping Tuesday morning or Friday or today at 5:02 p.m.
doesn't
Eastern.
make any sense. It would be
I would imagine that we're about to get Grip Lock cursed to the ultimate level, but hey.
You notice he threw a shot yesterday on Instagram, and you could only see the bottom of the disc.
No, I have a screen recording. I've went by frame by frame.
You could see it?
No, I've tried my hardest.
Yeah.
It looks like Discraft plastic. I deleted it because I couldn't find anything. So it's in my recently deleted.
It looked not even close. Like I don't.
But I can show you it if you want to see it. If you want to go frame by frame with me. I also took 2 screenshots, but because screenshot 1 you can kind of see the stamp. I just can't quite tell what the stamp is. It's very blurred out. And screenshot 2 is the best screenshot right as it released his hand.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about those pictures. Luca took my camera.
I mean, who doesn't have some of those? So that's not bad.
That almost looks Innova stamp-esque, like an old Innova. I don't know though.
Yeah,
but like
interesting.
The disc profile when I went frame by frame really slowly through it. If you aren't wondering what we're talking about, he posted it on his story, him throwing. When I went frame by frame through it, it looked like Discraft putter blend. And it looked like
from the 10 pixels I could see.
It didn't because in the pull through you could see the profile of the disc. You just couldn't see the top. It didn't look like any Innova putter mold I know of. It was more rounded, which led me to think if this is either just a classic Warden, and he's just throwing it, throwing it.
It could just
or
be
it's like a Challenger. But I couldn't recognize the stamp. But regardless, Ricky Wysocki's left Dynamic Discs. We don't know where he's heading. We're about to find out where he's heading.
20 some odd days here for him to figure it out.
Yeah, I watched his live yesterday. He does hot tub lives every night.
Yeah. I don't know that I realized until I clicked on a couple finally that he's just doing that out of his hot tub every time.
Yeah. He says it's ice bath o'clock. He gets in his pool and then walks over to the hot tub and answers some questions.
Now that's what I'm talking about, man. Engage with the fans.
Yeah.
Engage with the fans.
So obviously fans were asking him, where are you going? When are you announcing? And he basically was like, I can't tell you either of those things.
Yeah.
So
not after last time, man.
But props to Rick this time. Dead silent. I think it's mainly because one specific person has either been very strictly told you can't tell anyone or doesn't know where he's going. But regardless,
we haven't heard anything outside of the lines either. Like
no.
Nothing.
Well, it is interesting that because you never know, Reddit is always right somehow.
Yeah.
And so you never know.
Well,
this time it felt very much like Reddit was just speculating, where sometimes you'll see something you're like last time someone was like, I literally bet my house Ricky's going to dynamic discs. And we were just like, okay. Like, I mean, obviously that's just a comment on Reddit, but like
this guy just bet his house.
But you don't, I have the title in my hand. Like, is he going? So like, but you typically at least hear someone really confidently
You're
say.
usually waiting for that. I just saw him at my local course.
Yes.
Like he's throwing this plastic.
That hasn't happened this time around.
No.
All that's happened on Reddit was basically conspiracy theories tying all the rope together, and props to Reddit, they were right.
Ooh, I just have an interesting
now what we get to play is where is Ricky going? And this is a fun game because a lot of times when we play this game, we know the answer and we have to act like we don't. This time,
I'd say like 20% of the time.
This time, we have no idea. We don't even have an inkling. I have a strong theory, but that's all I have.
I just developed another interesting one based on what we were just talking about. Because I think everybody's front runners are clearly Discraft and MVP in my mind. But based on what we just said, here's a theory. So obviously it's very hard to practice with like the brand you're switching to and not be spotted. We see it happen all the time. What if he doesn't have to practice because he already knows his bag?
He's going back to Innova.
Or Latitude.
I refuse to. So let's start here. I personally am ruling out all of the House of Disc companies because
I mean, I think I'm gonna go ahead and rule that out as well. But those would be the only two that qualify, or Prodigy, but there's no way.
I don't see because this move only does one thing. If he goes from Dynamic to Latitude 64, that only makes Dynamic Disc looks bad, because everyone knows they're under the same ownership. So all that move does is basically you're just restructuring his contract under the same parent company.
Yeah.
So you could have just done that and kept him at Dynamic. Yeah. So the only thing that does is make everyone be like, oh, they're definitely just bankrupting Dynamic, and it makes people not interested in Dynamic.
No, that rules that out. And for me, with Innova, because that's the other company that would really qualify, what rules that out for me was that he like left that contract or whatever.
That's so to me, Innova
they're too spidey.
That's what I'm saying. From what I see out of Innova's actions is Innova is too petty. Innova holds stuff, and they don't. Just from behind the scenes information, Innova seems too petty to accept him back.
And Rick is not giving them that much value that they'd be like, oh, bygones be bygones. Like it would be more of a sure, we'll bring you in. There's just there's no way.
So to me, Innova's out. House of Disc companies are out. That leaves Prodigy, Discraft,
Gateway,
MVP, sure, Gateway, Mint, stuff like that. But
or his own company.
But here's the other thing is Prodigy has said on, I think Will Schustrick said on a group, I believe it was about Ricky, that Ricky was not going there, or it might have been about Big Germ. But regardless, they basically said there's no big signings coming. We have a few, but there's no one big. Also, we know Prodigy
they're hitting the reset
on the they're just trying to let's regrow from grassroots. I don't see signing Ricky Wysocki as a part of that.
No shot.
So I think that Prodigy's off the table. That leaves MVP and Discraft. I am team Discraft. I think he ends up at Discraft mainly because his brother-in-law is the team captain of Discraft.
That's a good shout.
That's pretty much my whole theory.
And also,
but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, in the space where like them and MVP seem like the only two suitors that would even make sense, and I just don't think it fits MVP's brand, because I think their whole move is they're getting people that are just certified plastic movers. James Conrad was not necessarily that way, but that was their first signing. That legitimized them. But Simon and Big Germ and Eagle, they're just certifiable plastic movers. And yeah, Rick can move some plastic, and it would make a little noise, but I just don't know that the right number would be there. I'm not going to write it off, but I would agree. I think Discraft probably looked at this similar to, I think, the way that they probably gobbled up Chris Dickerson, which was coming off of a big contract that is no longer afforded or was chosen not to be re-upped, and they're probably going to get a good value, is what I'm guessing. Probably a short-term deal, but you know, if I'm Discraft and okay, Ricky's on the table, he doesn't really have anywhere to go, but we can get him short term, and the buzz of just, well, no pun intended, the buzz of that initial move is enough to probably get the capital we would need to pay him anyways. Like, it just makes sense. I mean, it's hilarious to think about that they would have another good player.
It's also here's my anti-Discraft move.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't see him and Paul on the same team.
Were they ever teammates in Innova? First time around. They were touring partners way back. But that was back
before
any,
before the rivalry.
But I don't think Paul and Rick actually dislike each other.
The thought, though, of as a 2015 Paul Macbeth fanboy, the thought of Ricky Wysocki possibly throwing the PM line makes me kind of want to go to the bathroom and hurl. I don't like it.
I mean,
if Connor were here, he would have already puked just thinking about it.
Well, he'd be talking about Ken Climo.
That's true. He'd be saying, "How are we sure Climo's not signing?"
The real question is, if Rick does go there, will he throw any of the PM line?
Probably. I could see him throwing maybe the Onyx, but I mean, the Raptor's going to be his disc if he goes there.
I mean, just at this point, I would say I would say I'm like 85 or 90%. It's going to be Discraft, and then the other remaining percentage MVP.
Now, here's a third option.
Hit me with it. Okay. DGA.
No, Ricky is a side hustler to no end.
He is.
Maybe he's going open bag, no sponsorship, and he's just going to custom stamp his own stuff.
That's not gonna
work. But I'm just saying, he's on Whatnot. He does a lot of like side hustle streaming stuff. He's always been a hustler through and through, as far as not a hustler like he's scamming you, a hustler as in if there is a side hustle to do and make money, he's going to do it. So maybe he's like, you know what, the Sake Bomb brand, I'm ready to just have it be my own thing. I don't think so either, but there's a third option, because that would also be a reason you don't need to learn a new bag.
Like, let's just think. I mean, we would be talking about Paul Dickerson, AB, Ezra Robinson,
Ezra Aderhold,
Paige Gossage. Pierce. I mean, they literally would have the Avengers. They already do. Adding Rick is just like, it's silly. The only thing they'd be missing at that point is like one of like the. I mean, AB was really good last year, but like, I mean, at that point you're only missing the crown jewels that
you're missing
like Gannon, and then Calvin if he can find his form again. But gosh, man, it's just like I never thought a company, especially in this day and age, could end up with so many players, but it looks like they might.
Now, MVP is obviously still on the table. I'm with you that it doesn't fit the line of their recent signings, but it could fit the similar mold of it's just too good of a deal to pass up.
Well, and you know, because of the lateness of all this happening, like, I think a lot of times we look at this and we think they're really premeditated, but then we find out that they're not. Like, there's a chance that Dynamic and some other company and Rick all were able to reach a deal like a week ago. Like, this thing could be a lot more salvaged and less premeditated, and that is where maybe it is an MVP who, like, were able to find a plan that made sense. I don't know. I wouldn't put it off the table. It would make them a really formidable team. And once again, like, though you are not getting the certified plastic mover in Rick, you would be getting a guy who is
your name's gonna be up there.
He's a proven winner at a different level than the other guys on that team, and so yeah, your logo is gonna be all over the top of the leaderboard. And something like, if you were to tell me right now, like, okay, name the players who you guarantee are gonna be sitting on coverage the most next year, you're gonna say, I'm going to say Gannon, and then the very next name I say is probably going to be Rick.
Yeah, at least feature cards.
Exactly.
If nothing else.
So, like, if you're a company that sees value in that, and there is value in that to some extent, then yeah, there's probably a number that'll make sense. There's a number for Rick that makes sense for any company on earth. It's just, how high is that? When you're coming off of $1 million a year, how big of a drop are we talking? And like, what did that process look like? I mean, there's just so much to be said. It really pains me that I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out probably if we find out before this episode goes. If we find out before 3 p.m. today.
Yeah, that would be the best case, because then we can just come back.
Then we'll be back.
Yeah.
You're about to hear from us again.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that's not going to happen. I'm going to say that the announcement's going to happen around 6 p.m. tonight or 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. I'm expecting that. But
well,
we're on Rick watch.
Well, I was saying Ricky is in
Arizona.
So I mean, yeah, we could be getting this thing late tonight.
Yeah, we're on Saki watch.
That Luka Doncic trade.
Yeah, no, this feels the same as Luka Doncic leaving the Mavs. That's kind of where we're at right now.
We should do that trade. A lot of people were doing that trade really quick. People were doing like, explain this in NFL, explain this in this. What is the disc golf equivalent? Our NBA fans will love this. The disc golf equivalent of trading Luka for Anthony Davis and their accessories. I would say
all time or like current?
Current, because you got to find a young superstar player and trade them for a guy who's still a superstar and a future Hall of Famer, but aging, and it makes no sense.
I would go trading Gannon Burr for.
But Gannon Burr is the best.
Okay,
I think you got to find
less.
I think maybe Calvin. Well, Calvin's a little old. It's probably not Isaac. It might be AB. It probably is AB,
okay.
Right? Because a proven winner, but not the very best, just right beneath it.
Who's better than Luka at his age? I guess Giannis. Is Giannis around his age?
Giannis is a little older.
So that's what I'm saying. Who's the best at Luka's age?
I mean, yeah, I guess
it doesn't matter. AB works too.
Okay. Either way, somebody like that.
Trading AB for Kale LaVisca.
Well, that's not true. That's too old. You got somebody who's
he's got life.
It honestly might be Rick.
Rick's too good for the Anthony Davis.
Hasn't won a major in 7 years.
That's fair.
I think it actually might be Rick because Anthony Davis is very, very good.
But see, I don't think that works because if I was Discraft and you gave me the option to trade AB for Rick, I'd probably take it.
That's an awful take.
I think I'd take it.
What? Hunter, use your business brain.
Yeah.
Which one generates more money?
Well, no, I'm using performance brain.
Oh, I understand.
Because we're talking NBA terms, where all that matters is on-course performance.
We're also talking about, to be fair, I guess we do have to pick a much older player. We're talking about golf versus basketball.
That's what I'm saying. So if you give me Ricky and I'm just looking at performance, I think that Ricky has a more successful career over the next 5 to 10 years than AB.
It had to be somebody older, I guess.
That's Kale LaVisca.
Player might not. Oh, yeah. All right, it's Kale LaVisca.
I mean,
Anthony Davis. This podcast's official statement is that Anthony Davis is equal to Kale LaVisca.
He still has life ahead of him. He's still gonna be playing some, but it's like you're not expecting much out of him anymore.
You're expecting a lot out of Anthony Davis.
Well, you're expecting a lot. You're not gonna get much.
Okay.
You're gonna get 25 games next season, and that's about it.
I was talking NBA.
So, all right. Well, we're excited to find out where Rick goes. Let us know in the comments if you don't know yet where Ricky's going to end up. And if you do know, then just comment and be like, wow, the grip lock curse is real. This must be planned from outside forces. But before we get into Trevor's Trivia, we got to take a moment to thank our sponsors. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted online betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to end-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL to UFC, head to BetOnline today, and don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Many disc golfers have tons of extra discs cluttering up our closets and cars, and there are few storage products on the market that are designed specifically for golf discs and that don't waste any space. And unfortunately, the ones that do exist are terribly expensive. Thankfully, there is Discbox. Discbox is the only low-cost disc golf storage product on the market. Discbox is a simple disc storage bin that holds up to 30 discs, requires no tape or glue, and is made from recycled material right here in the USA. So go to discboxdg.com and you'll find quantity discounts, wholesale options, multiple colors, and most importantly, no order minimum. So you can order just a single box if you want. Discbox also makes a great player pack item, so visit discboxdg.com today and get your collection organized, and don't forget to use code FOUNDATION for 15% off your order.
Okay.
Time for our fan favorite segment, Trevor's Trivia, right after these messages.
I don't know if somebody heard my sporcle cry on the last one and already whipped up this banger, but this is another just hilariously awesome sporcle quiz. It's so unique. Once again, I'll mention, if you ever want to be featured on Trevor's Trivia and you make really good sporcle quizzes, just throw them up there. I'm checking them all the time. This one's hilarious, and I want to do this with you, so I looked at it and then turned my brain off.
Okay.
Because I think it'd be fun to try and solve this with you, and it's going to be kind of tricky. So this is the Disc Golf PDGA Scrabble Rankings quiz. You're familiar enough with Scrabble to understand the certain letters get you more points.
Yes.
Making longer words. So what we have here are the top 25 scoring last names. Now, these are only pulled from the top 50 MPO and 30 FPO players, but there's a mixture of them both. They're scattered in, with the highest scoring name being worth 21 points and the lowest being 13. So you and I think we'll do 2 minutes, and we're gonna see how many of these we can get. Because I'm curious to see how many we can get.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready? Go.
I think.
You just start throwing out guesses. Long last names. Long last name.
Okay.
I'm gonna start with Dickerson.
That's a good one.
That's just the first one that popped in my head. Okay, he was on the list. He was a 16-point name, so that's our reference.
Well, Wysocki.
That's going to be very.
That's
high.
gotta be a great.
That's
name.
the number 3 one on there. Very good.
There's 2 better than Wysocki.
Yes.
What's the top what again?
21. That was a 19-point word. We already used 30 seconds. I'm gonna try Antilla.
I mean, at some point we just gotta throw names out there.
Yeah, just start
go
chucking
Burr.
names. Hunter, what? That's a terrible guess. Long
I
last
said we
names.
gotta start throwing names out there.
And also think FPO as well.
Midling, FPO.
I'm not even able to spell that.
Midtlying.
Midtly.
Or is it YNG?
ING.
Take out the I if it doesn't work. Take out the I. Just YNG.
This is gonna take too long.
Okay. Well, I think that could be a good name. Weatherman.
There you go. That's a good one. I don't think she's gonna be. Oh, she was on there.
Let's
Very
go.
good. That's good. All right, that was good. Who are the other? Just think down the rankings. MPO. Orem wouldn't be on there.
Did you do Robinson yet?
I can try Robinson. That's a long one.
It's longer.
That's not on there apparently. Coling wouldn't be on there. The K's are good, but he also wouldn't be. No, he'd be in
Corver.
Corver. It's gonna have to be longer. I think. It's just gonna have to be. Or think. Is there anybody with a Z?
There's got to be some European names.
Is Queen on there? No.
Z.
I don't think there's anybody with a Z.
Zoe Andike, but that's a first name.
Dang. This is so much harder than I thought it was gonna be. I'm just drawing a blank. We've only gotten 3 names.
Long last name.
We're about to run out of time, and I'll just maybe quiz you on the ones that pop up because this is so hard. I thought this was going to be a lot easier to think of guessings. We've never ever tried to guess just long last names before.
I've never really thought of players' last names beyond just top players.
Okay. Well, that was literally 2 minutes, and we guessed 3 of them. So or should we? I was gonna say we could resume it next week and try to bring Connor in, but I'm gonna look at them. Oh my gosh, we should have done way better at this. Number 1 on the list was Hebenheimer.
I wouldn't have got that. Wouldn't have got there.
Let me think of the ones we should have gotten. Heimberg.
Just like give me. Okay. But Heimberg, when I'm thinking long, I was trying to think like
3 syllables. That's the problem.
Yeah, like Weatherman. And
McMahon is on there. Callaway, Macbeth, Midling was on there. I'm gonna give us credit for that. So we would have gotten 4.
How is
Hanley,
Macbeth on there?
It's just what I think it's because M, C, and B. It's just a lot of consonants. Not a lot of
McMahon.
vowels.
We should have got.
That's the thought process, right? Because Hamez is on there because you got 2 M's and H.
I wasn't ready for this game. I wasn't in the right mental headspace.
I
don't think I understood.
A lot of these were really difficult.
I think I understood the game, but I don't think I understood the game.
Looking at this list now, I'm seeing that yes, there were a few more like Humphreys and Manduano.
Mandujano,
there are other
Humphreys
longer
I wouldn't
names
have
we could have
figured out.
gotten. But some of the ones you would have to know Scrabble a little better. Like Facus was number 2 on the list. Because
that
you have
makes
the
sense.
K
The J and the K. I wouldn't have got there,
They're
though.
both very high
And the
scoring.
F would have been somewhat up there.
Yeah. Hannah Wynn, because you got the
Oh,
double H and a Y.
When you think in that, if I would have said Wynn, how are you going to spell that?
Could have wrote it down. That's a very tough one. That is the worst we've ever done at a sport quiz. I still love it, though. A shout out to whoever made that, because actually I can shout them out because it's probably right here. Shout out to, where's your name? Harris Bueller. It's got 2 plays, and I think I was 1 this morning when I just clicked on start and then decided to stop, and then I was the second one.
Okay, well, I have a trivia game of my own, and
Hopefully
by my own, I mean Edwin Downs. And by
all
Edwin
the
Downs,
Scrabble
I mean
players
Edwin Stats.
listening to that were losing their mind just now.
Well, to be fair, I was somewhat making sure I understood how this game worked when you were explaining the rules, so I went in a little bit in the dark. Okay. That was my bad. You said, "Are you ready to go?" And I was like, "I don't want to make him re-explain everything, but no, I'm not ready. But let's just go."
Sounds good.
Because I was trying to figure out was I only supposed to be naming players that were in the top 25? Because I was about to say Eliezer Midling, but then I was like, she might not count.
Top 30 FPO.
So it worked. Okay, so this is basically, I don't know if you remember the Immaculate Grid.
Oh, I love Immaculate Grid. I play it like all the time.
So this is basically he made disc golf
one?
Immaculate Grid.
Somebody did this a while back. But then if somebody had the time and energy to make these like consistently, like the kind of people that are doing the disc duel and that kind of stuff, I would play it every day.
So he did this, but used statistics that we discussed throughout the year. So it's a refresher on stats we've covered.
So it's all going to be stats based, which makes sense because you can't do teams.
8 of the 9 categories are from this year's stats, like Manufacturers Cup, Open versus Technical Performance, 2024 Player Performance. But one of them's more general, as he needed an easy category to make sure he had enough players in each bucket. So here's the notes. There's 24 players that meet the criteria for at least one of the 9 buckets. So the best someone can do is pick 2 players for each bucket.
Oh, we're supposed to do multiple for each one?
That's the best you could do. So you can do one and just see how.
You're supposed to just get the whole grid.
Yeah, well, you can do one and see how you do. And if it's like you flew through it, then you could do a second one because there's 24 players that could fit, if that makes sense.
Wow, so this one's really specific, though. Does that mean there's literally only 2 options for each one?
No. So there's 4 players that match.
There's repeat ones.
There's 4 players that are in all 9 buckets, but you can't repeat.
You can?
You can't.
Yeah,
I'm saying they're repeats.
Okay.
Like there's 4 players that are in
this
all
still,
9
like,
buckets.
This is tough. Like a lot of times with the normal one, it's like who played for the Orioles and the Red Sox, and there's like a billion answers.
Yeah, so here we go. Well, do you want me to start with the more obscure ones? That's how he recommended. You can't look at my screen
do it however.
the answers.
Okay, do it however.
He recommended starting with the more obscure ones because that way you aren't going to take out.
Exactly. You don't want to take out the player that could fit.
How do I zoom out here a little bit? I need to get this
That's
thing
definitely the way
where
I want to do it. I love the baseball ones. They're so difficult. If I get teams that I'm not
I need to zoom out even more.
I just get crushed.
It's a big grid. Okay.
This is exciting, though. Okay.
So, basically, I'll just read you each category.
Yeah, and I'll try to find the player that fits.
First off, the top row, you have top 20 in short to medium technical holes.
Okay.
Then you have the next category over, top 20 birdie rate on long/open holes.
It's going to be impossible.
The next one over is top 20 in putting. So this is
that's at least doable. The other two
C1X,
are so hard
80% comes from C1X, 20% come from C2. Then going down, the first line is one more than $25,000 in 2024.
That's very doable.
The next one down is 2024 Manufacturer Cup players who had 50% of team's total points or 50 cumulative total points for the year.
That's very doable.
And then the final one is won an elite or major in the last 5 years.
Okay, so the top row is really hard.
Top row is the hard
side
row.
row is very doable. Okay, so just give me one box at a time.
Okay, well, let's see if you let's start with
people can follow
top
along.
20 in putting. So this
Okay.
is 80% C1X, 20% C2. So that's how it weighs them together. So take 20%
top
of the
20 putter.
Top 20 putter period who also won more than $25,000 in 2024.
Okay, the problem is like I want to take somebody who is the worst player I could fit in that category. Top 20 putters, because the problem is like the guys who are only good at putting wouldn't necessarily, because like I could take a good chunk of the best players. The question is, I'm wondering if Antela was a top 20 putter. I don't know that he was. He definitely made enough money. And then, like, I don't know if Dickerson was a top 20 putter because he definitely made enough money. I'll take Dickerson, Chris Dickerson.
And you lost.
He wasn't a top 20 putter.
No. We'll give you Antela. You mentioned his name.
Oh, it was
and he
Antela?
fits. So Antela's one of them. We'll give you Antela.
I wonder where Dickerson would have been on that list.
I don't know.
He surely used to be a top 20 putter.
Next, you have top 20 birdie rate on long/open holes that also won more than $25,000 in 2024.
Okay. I'll just start playing it safer because I'll take AB.
Anthony Barella is on that list.
Surely.
Okay. Next, you have top 20 in short to medium technical holes. This is a par 3 that's less than 450, a par 4 that's less than 750, a par 5 less than 1,100 feet that also won more than $25,000.
Okay. Let me just take Gannon.
Gannon Burr is where you're using him.
I'm just going to try and get as many
He was
as I
one of
can.
the players that was in all 9 buckets,
Yeah.
so you could use him wherever you wanted. Okay, so we'll just go back.
That was the stat I was the most. That's like the stat that's the hardest. That short to medium.
We're going to go back to top 20 in putting.
Okay.
Who was also a 2024 Manufacturer Cup player that had 50% of the team total points or 50 cumulative points.
Ooh, this one is tricky. I'm thinking. Or had how many cumulative points?
50 cumulative total points for the year. Or had 50% of their team's points.
It could sneaky. The problem is my mind goes to Andrew Marweed with DGA, but the problem is Sully would have gotten quite a few points for some of those finishes towards the end of the year. I'm thinking of the other niche brands. Oh, because then you could go. Oh man, this is very tough. I don't think Mason Ford was like the only guy, but there's no way. Like he would be such a sneaky top 20 putter. Like I don't know if Mason Ford's a top 20 putter. And then like Matty O, he would have had like all the West Side points, but. And then I wouldn't put anybody in MVP in a top 20 putter category. It's so hard to track putting. All right, I won't drag this on. I'll just guess. I'll take Marweed.
No.
Yeah.
You did mention a player who's on this list.
Was it Mason?
No.
Matty O.
Yes.
He was a top 20 putter.
Not only that, Matty O is one of the 4 players that fits into all 9 of these boxes.
I think that's funny. I think the problem with the top 20 putting stat is it sounds easy, but the difference between let's say the 10th best putter and probably the 30th best putter or 40th is probably so slim.
Another player that you missed that is not going to be on the grid anymore that was only in these top 2 was Evan Smith. He was a top 20 putter, so he fit for one more than 25K.
But like once again, that's the thing is like putting statistics, like probably everybody knows like 4 or 5 guys that are like those are really awesome putters on tour. But once you get past that, it's just who had a good putting season. I would struggle with that.
All right, so now top 20 birdie rate on long/open holes that also had 50% of their team points or 50 total points, cumulative points.
I mean, this is just cooked. Because then you get the long throwers. I mean, is it Mason Ford on that list?
Mason Ford is not on this box anywhere. There is no Mason Ford.
I'm just thinking of a guy he would have obviously had most of his team points. What are some other teams? Is Joey Buckets on that list?
No.
Dang, really? That one.
I'm only looking at the list.
Huh, that one really surprises me.
He's on a different list. He's on this board, but he's not on this list.
Interesting. What are the other teams that guys would? Okay. Simon.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah, I should have got that one earlier. I kind of forgot about MVP.
Okay.
This is hard.
Next, you have the short to medium technical holes, and the same thing, 50% or 50 cumulative points.
And wait, did we just get a Mason Ford isn't anywhere on here?
Mason Ford's nowhere on here.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can just throw him out the window.
This one would have been the one I really thought he would have been.
Yeah, just throw him out the window.
He was
Mason
a good
Ford,
player.
Not on this list.
Is Joey Buckets on this one?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I knew he had to meet that first criteria.
All right, so now we're going to go back to top 20 in putting. There's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names that you could use here.
And what's the last one, though? Oh, one. Okay, this is...
That won an elite or major in the last 5 years.
Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that one.
Ricky was one of the players that was in not all 9 buckets, so you could use him anywhere.
That was genuinely really hard.
Top 20 birdie rate on long/open holes that won an elite in the last 5 years?
Top birdie rate in open/long holes that won an elite in I'm not sure if he would be on this. I think he is. Is Eagle on there?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember him sneaking into that one. All right, I'm proud of that.
There you go. This was Eagle McMahon was in 4 boxes total.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Next, final one, top 20 in medium to short holes that won an elite in the last 5 years. Major or elite in the last 5 years.
Isaac Robinson.
Yep. Isaac Robinson also could have been
strong
used
finish.
For so many of them.
Oh yeah, I took
the putting. He was in the top 2 putting ones.
Was he?
He was on Prodigy last year.
Was he more than 50% of his points? Yeah. I totally.
Isaac and Ezra Robinson both had 50 cumulative points for Prodigy.
Yeah. I you know what?
Evan Smith.
I was totally ignoring the cumulative points part
James
of that question.
James Proctor in Thought Space.
Oh, that's a good one. I didn't think of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was totally ignoring.
You didn't take Calvin for any of them, and he was in a lot.
Well, I would have picked him for the ones I picked the other better
Paul
players.
McBeth was in 6 blocks. You didn't take him. Kyle Klein was in 6 blocks.
I kept thinking about Kyle Klein, but I didn't know where to slot him in. Is he a top 20 putter, Kyle Klein?
No.
Okay, thank goodness, because I didn't.
You could have fit him in the long/open holes, or the
name
short,
some other top
holes.
20 putter guys like for one.
James
of those.
Proctor, Evan Smith, Corey Ellis, Isaac Robinson, Ezra Robinson.
Ezra
Anthony
was
Barella.
a top 20 putter. You see what I mean? Like nobody thinks about Ezra Robinson. It's like
Anthony Barella, Eagle McMahon.
He was a top 20 putter.
Yeah,
that's not like. Top 20 putting might be the hardest. You should have just asked me that. I would have gotten like 2 of them. Like that's.
Did I say Corey Ellis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks, and I think it's because a lot of these players, like if you're just a top player, you are a good putter. But a lot of these players, like the rest of their game, just overshadows it. It used to be, I feel like, 20 is just a lot of people, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because goodness. Nobody thinks about AB and he's like, oh, he's an awesome putter. Like, yeah, when he was winning, he was putting well, but like,
Top 20 putter.
Top 20 putter. Put that in the Insta bio.
There you go. All right, well.
I'm a top 20 putter at Foundation.
That's true. That's true. We all are. Nah, there have to be like 2 or 3 part-time workers that aren't.
Shoot, I might not be a top 20 putter.
You're a top 20 putter Foundation. You just had to beat like 2 or 3 people. Let's go through this. Are you a better putter than Eva?
Right now, it's debatable.
That's a yes. Are you a better putter than Mr. Wilson, who does our books?
Okay, yes.
There's 2. Okay,
There's
so you've
2.
got to beat one more person.
This might be where the buck stops.
Are you a better putter than Silas?
At this moment?
Yes, you're a
no,
better.
I'm pretty sure he beat me in the putting league. I'm pretty sure he just beat me in the putting league.
Are you a better putter than Brad, Jason?
I think all these guys just beat me in the putting league. At this very moment, I don't know that I could vouch beyond
Connor?
Definitely not Connor.
You're a top 5 putter at the company.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Man, that is a terrible take. That's just that one.
I would say
that one is dead wrong because
Graham, Kyle are better than both of us.
Jonah has to be a better putter than me.
Okay, Jonah.
Clayton, still with the company.
Okay, well, I wasn't counting Clayton. He just works one day a week. I forgot about Clayton.
Better.
Okay, so now
putter.
you're a top 6. Clayton.
Wouldn't even
and
say.
I put me and you.
I don't know how some of these guys can putt, man. Some of these other workers we have,
Max might be better than us. I don't know. I've never seen Max throw a disc.
It's a bad. I'm in a bad place right now. There are times where I would say sure, but now is not that time. I'm in a bad place.
All right, well, ladies and gents, that wraps up.
We can't do South Select.
We can't do South Selects. We also can't do in the bag. I can't update the points for in the bag because Trevor won last week. I came in second. So I now have 14. Trevor has 11. Connor has 8.
I had a
Connor's on the struggle bus.
The tide had turned, and I made a real big comeback. And at this point, we have, I think, like 3 more.
Connor missing this week is not great for his cause.
Not good. Not good.
Because he's going to have to almost win out.
Yeah.
Because we don't have many more. But hey, things can happen. Big punishment on the line.
We're so close to disc golf season.
Very close.
I'm really excited.
Very, very close. And we're so close to knowing where Ricky Wysocki's going. Let us know in the comments down below where you think he's going to end up, and we will talk to you again next week.